Speaker, Professor Isa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, the Director General of the Institute, Professor Ayo Motayo, ably represented this morning by the Acting Director of Research, Dr. Emmanuel Umar, MNI, members of faculty, participants of the Senior Executive Course 46-2024. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I am Commodore Suleiman Dahun, MNI, the moderator for this morning's session. This morning, we shall be privileged to listen to a lecture titled Performance Evaluation for the Digital Economy, Youth Empowerment and Sustainable Job Creation in Nigeria, to be delivered by Professor Isa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, who was the former Minister of Communications and the first ever Minister for the Digital Economy in Nigeria. When I called him to extend the invitation to this lecture, he promised that he was going to come personally. I said we were going to arrange security. He said no, his team would guide him here. I think we should appreciate him for personally coming to the Before I asked him to come and tell us about performance evaluation with respect to our study variables, permit me to acquaint you with his curriculum item. In fact, this morning I spent about 2 hours, sir, trying to sort out which one I should tell them, which one I should leave. It was quite an intimidating profile. In fact, it is heartwarming that we have Nigerians who can excel in that field that much. Very distinguished guest lecturer was born in Pantami, Gombe State. He was a former Minister of Communications and the first ever Minister of the Digital Economy for the Federal Republic of Nigeria from 2019 to 2023. He has a Bachelor of Technology degree in Computer Science from the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University. And he also has 2 master's degrees in computer science and an MBA in technology management. He attended the Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen, United Kingdom, for his PhD in computer information systems. Before then, he had acquired a postgraduate certificate in research methodology from the same institute. So see him for research methodology. Professor Ibrahim teaches cyber security and information security and also supervises postgraduate researchers and engages in community service as the first professor of cyber security in the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, Imo State. Am I saying something familiar? Professor Oyelechere? He has the distinction of being the first and only African so far to be certified as the fellow of the Chartered Institute of Information Security of the United Kingdom. He was chairman of the World Summit on Information Society 2022, and his tenure marked outstanding transformation of the program as attested to by the Secretary General of the United Nations. Prior to his appointment as minister in 2019, he was the CEO of NITDA. Under the leadership of the professor, the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy 2030 to 2030, as well as the National Broadband Plan 2020 to 2025, were developed, among others, and many unprecedented successes were recorded in that sector during his tenure. In fact, within the 3 years he spent in office, 23 national policies were developed and are even being implemented as of today, including the national policy that led to the establishment and management of the first National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics in 2021. As Minister of Communications and the Digital Economy, the lingering issue of excessive right-of-way charges and vandalization of telecommunications infrastructure were significantly addressed. Under his stewardship, he contributed an unprecedented 14.07% to the GDP of the nation, based on the report of the National Bureau of Statistics. The ICT sector was also the fastest growing sector of the Nigerian economy, with 17.92% contribution to the GDP, based on the second quarter of 2021 GDP report. He further broke that record as the ICT sector contributed yet an unprecedented 18.44% to the GDP in second quarter of 2022 again. Most importantly, he was the person that developed the national policy for the development and deployment of the 5G system in Nigeria. Professor Ibrahim is a recipient of several global awards and is a well-sought-after speaker, delivering convocation and graduation lectures in public and private universities. In addition, as stated earlier, he developed 23 national policies that are currently being implemented to promote cybersecurity in Nigeria. These include the revised National NIN-SIM registration policy, the National Policy for Masking SIMs and Enforcement, and the blocking of 2.4 million unregistered SIM cards in 2019, as well as the enforcement of the Internet Exchange Point, as well as the enrollment of over 100 million citizens as of October 2022 on the National Identity Database and the issuance of the National Identity Numbers. Furthermore, Professor Ibrahim has been a champion of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program, Abuja, from 2019 to 2021. He has published several academic articles in professional journals, presented papers in more than 190 conferences, and published several books. He is a revered and highly respected fellow of the Chartered Institute of Information Security, the Nigerian Computer Society, and the British Computer Society, as well as fellow of Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Forensics Specialist Group of the British Computer Society. He is also a registered computer scientist with the Computer Professionals Registration Council of Nigeria, amongst others. He is happily married with children. On this note, it is my honor and privilege to invite our distinguished guest resource person to deliver the lecture in 45 minutes, followed by the interactive session. You're welcome.
Your Excellencies, senior government officials, academics, policy makers, may the peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you. Permit me to begin by appreciating the Institute, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, for inviting me to be part and parcel of this Special Executive Program 46 for the year 2024. If I can recall vividly, this is the fourth invitation of this respected institute to me personally. The first one, I was not able to be here in person. I was represented by a director. The second and the third invitation, I was able to join and make the presentation virtually. And this is the fourth one. And it happens to be the only invitation that I am here in person. Furthermore, I left Abuja this morning. Throughout my trip, I was contemplating how to address these respected personalities. I know they are not students like my humble self. And secondly, they are not going to be taught what they are going to write an examination with regards to, but rather they are most probably senior government officials from academia, from public service, civil service, and many more. Because of this, my presentation to you will be more of sharing my experience in office, particularly with regards to the topic of our discussion, that is digital economy, or to capture it aptly, performance evaluation for digital economy, youth empowerment, and sustainable job creation. As it was stated by the facilitator of the event a few minutes ago, that with all sense of humility, I happened to be the first Minister of Digital Economy in the history of Nigeria. From 17 October 2019 up to 29th of May 2023. Being the pioneer Minister of Digital Economy, there is no doubt I have a lot to share with you, particularly with regards to performance evaluation in digital economy, youth empowerment through digital economy, sustainable job creation for our citizens. Furthermore, prior to discussing the topic, I am glad to share with you that we were evaluated while in office. The then President Muhammad Buhari in 2019, he initiated a process where each and every minister must sign an undertaking along with his permanent secretary. Certain priority areas were selected. Each and every minister was requested to sign that agreement of performance evaluation that he must deliver, and he agreed to do that. So all of us signed that agreement, and we submitted a copy to the office of Mr. President through the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. So by 2022, there was a performance evaluation. 2021, there was another one. 2022, there was another performance evaluation. So because of this, I am glad to say that I was evaluated 3 times within that period in office. And on the 18th of October 2022, the President signed an executive order mandating each and every minister of Nigeria to agree and sign that agreement to deliver on his mandate. And I am glad that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also proceeded with the same approach, where ministers were requested to at least make a commitment to deliver based on their mandate, and also an office has been created in order to monitor and track the performance of each and every minister, because the executive order was signed on the 18th October 2022. I was given 8 priority areas, and I signed each and every one of them. Based on the priority areas given to us, the institutions that were requested to evaluate our performance are international and credible institutions that we all know them. Number 1 is KPMG. Number 2 is Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, that is FCDO, in collaboration with the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. So we signed that, and these institutions were mandated by the federal government of Nigeria to track our activities in our offices day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, and year in, year out. And A is 70%. If you get 70% in each priority area, that is A. The minimum accepted percentage is 50%. And also there is a target of 100%. And also there is a probability of even exceeding 100%. Because you are given, if you deliver this, is 50. This 60, 70, 80, 90, up to 100. I was given 8 priority areas. Priority area number 1 that I was given was broadband, to increase broadband penetration in Nigeria. Number 2, to increase 4G penetration in Nigeria. Number 3 is to develop policy for e-governance implementation in Nigeria. Number 4 is to develop and implement digital economy policy and strategy. Number 5 is to increase national identity enrollment. Number 6 is to enhance revenue generation for government. Number 7 is to partner with the private sector in order to create many more jobs for our citizens. And the last but not the least, number 8 is also citizens empowerment. These are the 8 priority areas. After the final assessment on 17 and 18 October 2022, which happened to be the last and final performance evaluation, on my scorecard that was given to me and also documented in the presidency and the office of the secretary to the government of the Federation, number 1, under broadband penetration in Nigeria, I graduated with 134%. Number 2, 4G penetration in Nigeria, I graduated with 127%. Number 3, developing policy for e-governance, I graduated with 99%. Number 4, to develop policy and implement with regards to the digital economy, I graduated with 103%. Number 5, to support citizens' enrollment into the national identity database, I graduated with 86%. And number 6, to enhance revenue generation in Nigeria, which is even the most important to the federal government at that time, I graduated with 594%. We were able to increase revenue generation in the digital economy sector from 51 billion naira quarterly to 408 billion naira quarterly. From 51 billion to 408. And that increment was achieved without increasing the price of our product or services. By August 2019, when I was appointed, the average price of 1 gigabyte of data according to the Nigerian Communications Commission, was 1,200. By the day I left the office, the average price of data was reduced by more than 70%. It was around 340 naira per 1 gigabyte, from 1,200 to around 340 naira. And with this, we were able to increase revenue generation by 594% without increasing the price of any service or product, but rather we reduced by more than 70%. Then number 7, to partner with the private sector and create jobs for our citizens. That one, I graduated with 111%. And number 8, that is citizens empowerment, is 137%. This is the performance evaluation that was presented to the President, the then Senate President, the President, the Vice President, the then President of the Senate, Speaker, and senior government officials as my final scorecard of the performance evaluation. We are grateful to the Almighty for His guidance and support always. Based on that, my discussion with you today is more of sharing my experience with you about performance evaluation. And I have reviewed many models for performance evaluation developed by the World Economic Forum, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, International Telecommunication Union, KPMG, Deloitte, and many others. However, what I intend to present to you is more of a Pantami model. That is the model I have personally developed from this years I spent in office being the DG of the National Information Technology Development Agency for 3 years, and also the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy for 4 years, 7 years. The model I developed has 5 steps, or rather you can call it 5-step algorithm. And as I earlier said, it's based on the personal experience and also the process in which I was evaluated while in office. Number 1 is the critical assessment of the current situation. What I mean by this, prior to performance evaluation, there must be a critical review of the current situation. When you assign a responsibility to someone, there must be a critical assessment. The situation on the ground that you're asking to take care. That critical assessment is key. What are the strengths of the responsibility or of the sector? What are the challenges? What are the problems? What are the weaknesses of the people involved? This is very critical indeed. So before you start anything, there must be a critical assessment of the starting situation. Without doing that, you will not be able to track your performance. You will not be able to evaluate the performance of any appointee or any senior official. So there must be a critical assessment of the current situation. That assessment will have different dimensions. There should be human assessment, whether they have the capacity to deliver. That is human resource issue. And there should be financial assessment, whether there is enough financial backing to deliver on that responsibility. These things are very critical. Whether the facilities on ground will support in delivering that. So this is number 1. The critical assessment is key. Number 2 has to do with identifying the priority areas and major deliverables. Otherwise, it could be jack of all trades, master of none. So that is why we must get our priority and preference right. In an institution, you are assigned to evaluate or to lead. There could be 100 visions. There could be 90 major and minor objectives. What is important, we must get our priority right. We may wish to say, okay, the major objectives or the priority areas or the major deliverables are either 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, or any number. So this is very important indeed. Otherwise, if you are being requested to lead a sector or an institution without identifying the priority areas and without knowing the major deliverables, then if care is not taken, you will end up without achieving anything. And this is one of the major challenges being confronted by many government officials. When they are appointed, they don't have any plan. They don't have any priority area. They are only reacting to situation. That is how they behave. They only react to situation. While in the actual sense, you are not to be reacting, but rather you should try to be on track. Any other issue that comes up outside that, even if you are to address it, you have to consider it as a distraction. But if you don't have your own priority area, and if care is not taken, you will end up without achieving anything. So that is why identifying priority areas is key. And this is not only restricted to digital economy sector, it's applicable to almost each and every sector or institution you are requested to lead. Number 3 is the establishment of the baseline. And this is important. Baseline is key. Without identifying any baseline, you will not be able to track and evaluate the performance. There must be a baseline that is established. You are appointed, you are elected, or you are requested to lead this institution or this sector. The first thing before the performance evaluation commences, it should be establishment of the baseline. If it is performance, what is the position of the performance at the moment? It's important. If it is enrollment, what is available in the database? You are requested to enroll or to graduate 10,000 students. So we need to look at it. In the last 3 years, how many students do we have in the database? So establishment of the baseline is important. Without it, then it is almost impossible to evaluate performance. There must be a baseline. The day you assume duty, or the day you are requested to lead this institution, what is the baseline? If it is revenue generation, what is being generated monthly and annually? And what is the target? Let's assume the institution is generating 10 million naira monthly, 120 million naira annually. So that is the baseline. So the target given to you is to increase revenue generation monthly from 10 million to 50 million monthly. That cannot be achieved within the next 1 or 2 or 3 months. But you have to have the baseline so that you can continue to increase. In the first month, maybe you push it from 10 million, maybe to 15, then to 20, then to 25, for example. So establishment of the baseline is very important. If it is customer care, then we need to look at the customer satisfaction. What is the customer satisfaction at the moment? The customer satisfaction is 60%. Okay, we are uncomfortable. The challenge given to you now is to increase customer satisfaction to 95% within the next 24 months. So that baseline is key.
Then number 4 also, we need to move to the 4th one. After establishing that, we need to come up with our actions and our strategies. Our actions, that is actionable plan. Usually, you can have your policy. That policy is a general statement. In an attempt to implement a policy, there should be a roadmap or a strategic plan. That strategic plan is going to cascade your policy into certain actions that are to be implemented to achieve each and every objective of your policy. So if it is with regards to revenue generation, then you have to cascade the issue of revenue generation into some strategic plans, into some actions that are to be implemented to achieve that. And this is indeed very important. Based on experience, in public office, formulating a policy is not the most difficult issue. However, implementing the policy is the major challenge. Many institutions formulate policies, but the major challenge, these policies are not implemented. Mostly they are not implemented. And today in Nigeria, our challenges have nothing to do with policy formulation, but rather implementation of our policies. Our mistakes in policy formulation are not many. But where the challenge arises is we usually fail to implement policies when they are formulated. And the challenge is usually some of the things that I realize. When policy is being formulated, many government institutions are more interested in engaging consultants to formulate policies for them. And because of this, their staff do not have the knowledge of the policy that is being implemented or that is being formulated. What I always advise, there is no harm in engaging a consultant to develop or formulate a policy. However, that consultant should work hand in hand with the senior staff of that institution. That will guide the senior staff to be able to know the policies that are being formulated and what they are requested to do towards their implementation. And this is indeed very important. If your policy is formulated in-house, or staff are at least accommodated in the process of the policy formulation, you will discover the implementation is not difficult. When I was appointed on 21st August 2019, in the entire digital economy sector, I inherited only one national policy. And even that policy was sponsored by the South Korean government. But within 4 years, I was able to lead my team where we achieved 23 national policies and laws. 23. And interestingly, each and every policy was implemented. Because all the policies we formulated, more than 80% of the work was done in-house. And through the process of policy formulation, we become experts in knowing the challenges of what that policy was about to address. Because of this, when it comes to implementation, it's not that difficult. Why? Because we were involved in the policy formulation. And some critical policies were not just formulated, but rather we have at least special purpose vehicle for their implementation. Like the policy of the indigenous content in the telecommunications sector, I had to establish a subsidiary under NCC. And that subsidiary, with over 30 staff, were requested to implement only a single policy. And they used to provide feedback to me each and every month, starting with weekly report to fortnight report, and finally to monthly report. So usually when a policy is formulated in this stage, number 4 of our performance evaluation, immediately we have to cascade each and every pillar of that policy into some actionable plans, to some strategies for easy implementation. Number 5 is periodic assessment and feedback. Periodic assessment and feedback. We have to ensure that there is a periodic assessment. And that periodic assessment, at the initial stage, it should be frequently. Maybe you ask for feedback. At certain situations, you can ask for feedback daily. When we plan to increase digital identity enrollment in Nigeria through National Identity Management Commission, at the initial stage, I used to receive daily report. From daily report to 48-hour report to weekly report. After weekly report, 10-day report. From there, 15-day report, up to 1-month report. And at the end, 3-month report. So at the initial stage, there should be a close mark to ensure things are being done correctly. And at the same time, this is the guidance you are to give to an institution before you start evaluating them. Guide them, these are the stages, and these are the actions to be done, and make sure during evaluation this and this are going to be done. So when it comes to evaluation, there must be a template of evaluating performance. And that template will capture that baseline, will capture the priority areas and major deliverables. That template will also capture whether each and every pillar of that policy is being implemented correctly or not. And in that schedule, you need to also include the challenges, the obstacles, and the barriers to each and every policy pillar that is being evaluated. If that institution fails to deliver, what are the challenges? Sometimes it could be manpower, sometimes funding. These are usually the major challenges in government, either human resource issues or financial issues. They are the major ones. And also the policy should come up with how this, or the evaluation process should come up with how this can be improved. And this should be part of your feedback in the course of that performance evaluation. These are the challenges, and these are the stages to be taken in order to address these challenges. Furthermore, if I am to discuss also in general with you some issues with regards to performance evaluation for digital economy, youth empowerment, and sustainable job creation in Nigeria. Historically, as we all know, Nigeria established the first ever digital economy sector formally on the 17th October 2019. And it was announced at the Federal Executive Council on the 23rd October 2019. And that is following a memo that I sent to the President requesting the federal government of Nigeria to have a stand-alone digital economy sector. At that time, there was nothing like that. Only what we had was ICT sector. And ICT sector is not a digital economy sector. Digital economy is part of the fourth industrial revolution, and what we call Industry 4.0. Digital economy as a term was coined in 1995, the tail end of the third industrial revolution, just few years to the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. The term digital economy was coined by Don Topscott in a book he published entitled as Digital Economy, Promise and Peril in the Age of Network Intelligence, the best-selling book at that time, 29 years ago. So he is the first person to coin the phrase or the term digital economy meaning attaching that adjective of digital to economy. So digital economy was new. And the implementation of digital economy globally commenced in the 21st century. In simple terms, if I am to explain digital economy to you, it can be called digital economy or new economy or internet economy or ICT economy is all the same. You can define digital economy based on the definition of Deloitte and World Economic Forum that an economic activity that depends on digital technologies. The fourth industrial revolution comes up with so many critical areas of digital technologies, like you have in artificial intelligence, in robotics, big data analytics, quantum computing, cloud computing, cybersecurity, virtual reality, augmented reality, nanotechnology, biotechnology, among others. All these are part and parcel of the digital technologies, and they are also part of the fourth industrial revolution. So any economy that depends on these technologies is part and parcel of the digital economy. Are you following? It's part and parcel of the digital economy in simple terms. Any economy that depends on this is part and parcel of the digital economy. As at December 2023, the market value of the digital economy globally was up to 16.6 trillion USD. 16.6 trillion USD. And it has been projected and predicted to reach up to 33.1 or a minimum of 32.9 trillion USD in the next 6 years. So by implication, you will discover, as it is today, the digital economy is dominating the world economy. Because you will discover that the traditional economy, slowly but surely, is moving into the digital economy. Our entire banking system today is on the digital economy. E-commerce is part of the digital economy. E-banking, part of the digital economy. At the moment today, we have what is called virtual vacation. If you have no money to travel to Dubai or to Singapore or to London or to New York for holiday, you may wish to convince your family so that you can partake in virtual vacation. You can sit down here with augmented reality, virtual reality. You sit here, but you can visit many shops in London. From here, you travel virtually to Dubai. You move to New York, Washington. You can identify what you want to buy. You go online, you purchase them, and there is going to be shipping for you easily. So this is part of, even holiday today, we have what is called virtual vacation or virtual holiday. Even surgery, medical surgery, is being conducted virtually today. Only 2 years ago, a surgery was conducted to address the challenge of Parkinson. The surgeon was in the US, while the patient was over 5,000 kilometers away from him, using 5G technology, which allows almost real-time communication. A surgery was conducted successfully. So in the next few years, even when you have a medical challenge, you could not be required to travel physically. You can sit at your location, and a surgeon can conduct a surgery from any part of the world. And this is part of what the digital technology or even the digital economy is all about. It's all about relying or building our economy on digital technologies. And today, even agriculture is becoming digital agriculture or smart agriculture or internet agriculture. Many countries have adopted that. The Netherlands is an example. In 2017, what they generated through digital agriculture was more than 10 times of what Nigeria generated through oil and gas. While the entire landmass of that country was around 41,000 square kilometers. Even 6 states in Nigeria in landmass are bigger than the Netherlands. Niger, Borno, Taraba, Kaduna, Bauchi, and Yobe, they are the 6 largest states in terms of the landmass. And through what is through digital agriculture. So this is also part of what the digital economy is all about. Even our online institutions are part of the digital economy today. Many institutions today, you can enroll, get their certificate without traveling physically. They are all part of it. It is because of this when the federal government institutionalized digital economy in 2019, we developed 23 policies and laws. And all of them is to support digital economy, also youth empowerment, job creation, among many others. There is no time to discuss all of them. I will mention only some of the most important. The most important one at that time was the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy for a Digital Nigeria. Almost each and every pillar of our priority area, we develop a policy in order to implement it. Broadband penetration, at that time, we developed Nigerian National Broadband Plan, 2020 to 2025. Because of COVID, we were not able to increase the penetration the way we started prior to COVID-19. In order to beat the deadline, I had to travel to the US, had a meeting with the SpaceX and Starlink of Elon Musk, where we invited them to Nigeria, and they came with Starlink. By December 2022, we had Starlink in Nigeria, and we happened to be the first country in Africa to have Starlink. Our landmass of 923,000 square kilometers in Nigeria, in any part of this country, if you purchase the facilities, you will get access to broadband. Through what? Through Starlink. Why? Because we were requested to deliver, and we spent more than a year because of COVID-19. Only essential services were allowed. So to beat the deadline, I partook in thinking out of the box. And that compelled me to travel to the US to attract Starlink to come into Nigeria. And by the day they came in, you can have access to internet and broadband in each and every part of this country. Among the laws that we developed, which I think are very essential to the development of our digital economy and also our youth empowerment and job creation, is Nigeria Startup Act 2022. It was signed into law on the 19th of October 2022. It was an executive bill that I championed. In digital economy, there are 2 prerequisites to building an indigenous digital economy. Digital economy has 2 critical components. Number 1 is digital innovation. Number 2 is digital entrepreneurship. These are the 2 prerequisites, the 2 components of building an indigenous digital economy. 50% of digital economy is all about innovation, digital innovation, coming up with creativity, with creative ideas that can change the world. Then the second component is entrepreneurship. How can we commercialize and make money out of it? This is what digital technology is all. How can we commercialize and make money out of it? Today, even social media is being monetized. Cristiano Ronaldo, as a footballer, what he earns from his Instagram at the moment is more than 500% of what is being paid by Al Nassr Football Club in Saudi Arabia, while he is the highest paid footballer globally, only through Instagram. At certain times, for you only to post a 5 seconds clip for advertisement, he will be paid around €5 million. Only 5 seconds on his page. 5 million euro. If you compute the amount in naira, at the moment you are talking about 8 billion naira. And this is only what he can post within less than a minute. And that is all. So Nigeria Startup Act is a very important piece of legislation that I would recommend to each and every one of us who wants to understand more about digital innovation and digital entrepreneurship to go through. And it's very important to our younger ones that are interested in innovation and creativity. In that law, there are so many benefits, including seed funding, where government will provide seed funding for them, intellectual property for them. Government must provide the enabling environment for them to be very successful. I am glad to say, as at May 2023, in Africa, we had around 7 unicorns. 7 unicorns means a company or a startup that have a minimum market value of 1 billion USD. Because of some of our initiatives, by May 2023, out of these 7 unicorns in Africa, 4 to 5 of them originated from Nigeria. And remember, in Africa, we have 54 countries. And there were 7 unicorns, and 4 to 5 of them initiated from Nigeria. And all of them were initiated, reached that position of unicorn from 2017 to 2023, all of them. Why? Because the main responsibility of government institutions is to provide the enabling environment for investors, for young innovators, for academics, policy makers, and others to be successful. That is the major responsibility of our government. Furthermore, when it comes to the issue of youth empowerment and also sustainable job creation, in digital economy, the priority and our mindset should not focus more on degrees and certificates, but rather the skills. There is a difference between knowledge and skills. Knowledge is all about what? It's all about factual information. When I know this is a lecture theater, and I'm currently presenting this lecture in NIPS, this is a knowledge. But if I can be able to navigate through the campus, then this is a skill. For me to know that this is a smartphone is a knowledge. And I know how to make a call with it is a knowledge. But for me to fix it, this is a skill. Most of our institutions in Africa, they prioritize knowledge rather than skills. We prioritize only knowing the factual information, not putting that factual information into practice. You will discover a professor of mechanical engineering cannot be able to fix his car when it is faulty. He will look for a roadside mechanic who didn't graduate even from secondary school. He will come and fix it for him. A professor of computer science cannot fix his smartphone or his laptop. He will take it to drop out, who establish just his own center to fix it for him. A professor of electrical engineering cannot be able to fix his electricity at home. He will look for somebody who left school because he failed WAEC or NECO. He will come and fix it for him. Why? Because we prioritize knowledge rather than skills. I am not undermining certificates. With all sense of humility, I'm not. And I have written a book entitled Skills Rather Than Just Degrees. I am not undermining degrees. I obtained many, but I insist that degree is not enough today. Just acquiring a degree is not enough. 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when our parents and our elder brothers graduated from school, even with a degree in history or sociology, appointment or job was waiting for them. Today it's not the same. Because of this, we have to change our approach. Instead of producing potential employees in our schools, we must change the trend to producing potential employers. People that when they graduate, they are more interested in employing others. But today, a PhD holder in engineering, in computer science, the first thing he will do is to update his CV, roaming about, looking for a job. A PhD holder is supposed to be the world expert in that area, the leading world expert at the time he graduates. So we have to change the mentality. This life is nothing but division of labor. Some of us should be in government, some in the private sector, some in academia, some in diaspora. That is how life is. But today, because our institutions give knowledge rather than skills, our graduates, most of them, cannot be able to stand on their feet. Why? Because they don't have the skill. And you cannot be an entrepreneur without acquiring the skills. In the US, in June 2020, the then President Donald Trump signed an executive order mandating the leading employer, the largest employer in the US, that is the US government, to prioritize skills rather than certificate during recruitment. That was the executive order he signed. And by implication today, in the US, you don't need to have a degree to get employed. What they are after is, could you deliver? Yes. Okay, come and deliver it. If I acquire a certificate and I'm requested to do the work and I fail to do it, then the aim of acquiring that certificate has been defeated. Because certificate is supposed to be a validation of the knowledge and skills I have acquired. So you cannot build a digital economy, sustainable job creation, youth empowerment without building the skills of our youth, particularly with regards to the fourth industrial revolution. And that is the main reason in 2020 and 2021, we established the first ever National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics in Abuja. The wisdom behind that is to challenge our youth to come up with creative ideas. And government was willing to implement their ideas or their solutions. And you will discover that the universities that are marrying and reconciling knowledge and skills are the leading universities today in the world. Take, for instance, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US. I served as the champion of MIT for 2 years. If you look at their curriculum, it's all about building skills of their students and also changing their mindset. Their graduates are not thinking to be employed, but rather their entire mindset is to graduate and employ others. That is the mindset. They reach a situation that in 2016, the serial entrepreneurs of MIT, their collective gross domestic product of their graduates was more than the GDP of India as a country, with a population of over 1.3 billion in 2016. Today is 1.43 billion. This is only one institution. And MIT, as a university, through their serial entrepreneurs, their collective GDP today is more than 5 times the GDP of Nigeria as a country with a population of approximately 220 million people. Why? Because it's all about building the skills of our students. But without skills, you will not create jobs. You will discover that even people that are supposed to be engineers and scientists, when you employ them, they will only become administrators. They cannot do any technical work for you. So we need to change that approach. We need to make our universities and our higher institutions of learning to be providing skills, and all the three important skills: technical skills or hard skills. Secondly, soft skills, which is even more important today globally. Soft skills accommodate like critical thinking, like complex problem solving, like thinking out of the box, tactical thinking, emotional intelligence, creativity. These are the most important today. Complex problem solving. And the same with Indian Institute of Technology that was established in 1950, and they commenced their studies in 1951. If you look at their curriculum, you will discover that they are producing potential employers rather than potential employees. When they established Indian Institute of Technology, their mindset was to dominate the world when it comes to skill. And today, India is the largest exporter of tech talent globally. The largest exporter globally. And it's a developing country. If you look at the application of H-1B immigrant visa in the US, that is skills visa, more than 2/3 of those who obtain the visa are from India. And more than 80% of them are directly or indirectly related to IIT, Indian Institute of Technology. Why? Because of skills. Because of skills, today India produces the vice president of the US. It's not through PhD, it's through what? Through skills exportation. And they produce a prime minister in the UK today. Why? Because of skills. So when it comes to the issue of youth empowerment, skills should be our priority. There is no doubt about this. We need to move from prioritizing knowledge only to increasing that. On top of that knowledge, there must be skills. What we are taught theoretically, we must be able to put it into practice. That is what skills is all about, to put your knowledge into practice. And digital economy today dominates the economy of the world, not through certificate or knowledge only, but through skills. According to International Monetary Fund, by December 2023, the GDP of America was over 25 trillion USD. Not because of oil and gas, but through what? Digital technologies. The second in the world was China, with a GDP of 19.9 trillion USD. Through what? Because of skills. And what? And their expertise in digital technologies. So, developing countries like Nigeria, we need to change our mindset. We need to challenge ourselves that the way our curriculum is today, there is need for us to prioritize more of skills. Most of our vocational schools disappeared. They used to provide vocational training, which is only one aspect of a technical skill, only one aspect. Today, we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. We are not supposed to be only consumers, but rather we must be producers. 20 years ago, nobody was talking about India, I was talking about China, but today, China is part and parcel of the fourth industrial revolution and in the forefront. And that makes their economy very vibrant. When it comes to youth empowerment, we are sitting here, Chinese people are always coming to Nigeria, working for us, they are being paid. They are always welcome. However, we have to provide our citizens with skills so that we can take care of ourselves and also take care of other African countries. The major challenge I will share with you is one, the issue of skill should be our priority. Secondly, policy formulation is important. However, policy implementation is more important. Without implementing a policy, the aim is going to be defeated. Thirdly, we need to change the mindset of our civil servants, government employees. This is very important. I work in the public space. I know how civil servants behave. We need to reorient ourselves. Nigeria is the only country we have, the only country we are proud of, and we must ensure that we leave this country for our younger ones better than how we met it. Thank you very much for listening.
Distinguished guest lecturer was making his presentation. The Director of Studies came in, and also the DG of the Institute, Professor Ayo Omor Tayo, also came in to the auditorium. May we please formally appreciate them. May I invite the DG to please take his rightful place. So, Ogusheye, before I even spoke, study group 2, they had already dominated the whole thing. Prof. Okay. I will start with Professor.
Oh, I need to write. Yes, sir. Oh, interesting. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay, sir, we'll take all the questions. I'll be giving you the names. Okay. From study group 1, Professor Ogunsheye. Professor Ogunsheye was the first person. Ogunsheye. Okay. The elder statesman, Dr. Hakim Popola. Professor Senator Keita. Please formally introduce yourselves properly so that the professor can just identify you. Mr. Bott, how many questions have we? There are so many of them. So we have enough time. So we'll take about 8 across board. But just be patient. Let me see whether my friends in study group 3, do we have anybody? Study group 3, going? Oh. No, you won't take over. Okay, so they have nominated Colonel Saidu and Mrs. Dagabana. Study group 4, Colonel Toro, Dr. Babura. I got it right? Okay. Please just come up, like I said, identify yourself properly so that you reinforce my. Study group 5. Prof, Damen, I will not recognize you. I have something for you. I will not recognize you. Get another person. John Bull, Chief John Bull. And Akuyatum. Captain Akuyatum. Okay. Study group 6. Okay. Engineer Gudari and Captain Basi. Study group 7, we have Honorable Kawu and Dr. Galadima. If we have time, I will still come back. Let's just take those ones, but just hold on. So please, properly identify yourself, comrade. They are excited today. Okay, so fire.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Adenike Adedayo Ogunshe, a professor of microbiology, sponsored by Center for Women's Information and Health. Sir, can you kindly shed...
Continue.
Okay, sir. Sir, can you kindly shed more light on gender patterns use of digital technologies, gender job creations, and gaps in the digital economy, possibly based on the Pantami model during your tenure as minister? Thank you, sir.
Next.
Your Excellency, I am Akim Popola Pham, PhD, Fellow of the Nigerian Computer Society, and the immediate past Commissioner of Science and Technology, Lagos State. On Wednesday, October 12, 2022, at GITEX in Dubai, you signed a memorandum of understanding with the largest tech company in the world, Microsoft Corporation, to train 5 million Nigerians in tech skills. You started the program during your tenure. Today, the agreement is perfectly aligned with the renewed hope agenda of the present administration. Kindly expand on the importance of the MOU and the status of the MOU under the present administration.
Thank you. Next, Senator Keita.
I am Senator Ahmed Babaketa, a Managing Director of Everglades Agencies, sponsored by the Presidency. Congratulations for the listed achievement, and I'm proud to say that I am part of some of your story. My question thus goes that part of your mandate and what you promised to do in terms of resolving the security situation of Nigeria, especially as it affects banditry in the northern part, was the introduction of need to solve those problems. As of today, they are still vividly around us, suffocating the country's economy and agriculture. What went wrong? Thank you.
A director sponsored by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. Thank you, sir, for the usual deliverance, effective deliverance of your presentation. Sir, you mentioned policy implementation as key to delivery. But then we know that even in policy implementation, it requires a champion figure. Can you explain further to us how you were able to implement those policies as the champion with that dedication for effectiveness? Thank you.
Study Group 4, Colonel Toro. Study Group 4, sir, Colonel Toro.
I am Colonel Hussein Rabiu Toro, sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Sir, your effort as the former Minister of Communication and Digital Economy in blocking about 2.4 million unregistered SIM cards in 2019 has gone a long way in checkmating insecurity in the country, especially kidnapping. This is simply because the kidnappers are solely relying on the payment of ransom via making calls. Sir, I want to know, why is that beautiful program short-lived? Thank you, sir. Short-lived. Thank you, sir.
Short-lived. Okay. Study Group 5. Okay, we have Doctor. What's the name again? Dr. Babura.
Thank you very much, sir. I am Dr. Salis Mazu Babura, Medical Doctor and Permanent Secretary from Jigawa State, sponsored by Jigawa State Government. Thank you very much, sir, for that lecture. So in your lecture, you emphasize the importance of skills in creating jobs, especially in the digital economy as a way forward. And we're also aware of the inadequate funding and policy direction challenge. Sir, I would like to know your perspective on deploying consumption tax on telecommunication services to finance programs to support skills development in Nigeria, just like in the way SIM tax was deployed in health sector to finance some serious health challenges in Nigeria. Thank you.
We now move to study. Repeat the question again, make it short. Keep it short and simple.
That the use of consumption tax in telecommunication sector to finance skill development programs in Nigeria so as to enhance job creation in Nigeria. This perspective, man.
Okay. Study group 5, we take John Bull and Captain Ikuyato.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Estate Surveyor and Valuer John Bull Amanyahu, the immediate past president, Nigerian Insurance of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, sponsored by the presidency. So my question is also on issue of policy implementation. In your presentation, you stress very well that the problem is not the policy formulation, but implementation. And you mentioned that you used SPV to drive your implementation. Can you please give us a practical example of how your experience, how you use SPV to drive policy implementation?
Thank you. Next is Captain Ikuyatum.
I am Navy Captain Udihi Ikuyatum, sponsored by the Nigerian Navy. Sir, skills development is one of your impact programs during your tenure as the Minister of Digital Economy. In that light, sir, what role can entrepreneurship play in fostering youth empowerment and job creation in Nigerian digital economy?
If an area has been covered by the lecture, please let's avoid asking the same question again. We go to study group 6. I think Engineer Tassiu and Captain Tony Bassi. Starting with Engineer Tassiu first.
I am Engineer Tassiu Saad Gidarudil, the immediate past president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, sponsored by the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Your Excellency, Prof, on digital skills, which I see you are passionate about, and I attest to that, you have worked on the development of kits for skills development in our schools. In conjunction with Dr. Agu Siagu, to produce the Unity Board for IoT. For the sake of some of my colleagues...
Sorry, ask your question.
Yes. Please expatiate more on such interventions that you have carried out in NITDA and as a minister. Thank you.
Captain Bassi, you're next.
Good afternoon, Prof. I am Navy Captain Tony Achibongbasi, sponsored by the Nigerian Navy. So from your lecture, you pointed out the importance of implementing policies, and you gave us an example of the policies you have done. One of the critical challenges to the implementation of such policies to enhance digital economy is provision of adequate infrastructure, IT infrastructure. So, sir, what recommendations could you give us in preferring ways to think outside the box and be innovative to resolve this issue of providing adequate infrastructure? Thank you.
From study group 7, we have Honorable Kau and Dr. Galadima.
Good afternoon, Prof. I am Honorable Hafiz Kau, sponsored by the presidency. We are lucky that our group, during the institution visit, we visited the ministry where you served as minister and NCC. But during our visit, we realized that the ministry and NCC had some similar challenges, even though some of the challenges differ. Like the ministry, we realized they had concerning funding. Even like this year, one of the directors asserted that they were only allocated with 3 billion, which is far.
Sorry, sir, what is the question?
Far low for them to work. So my question is, during your tenure, how did you cope with these limited resources? And what effort did you put to increase the funding of the ministry? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I know Dr. Galadima will keep it short and simple.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Dr. Usman Galadima, medical doctor, sponsored by the Office of the Head of Civil Service Federation. My question is on Starlinks. Starlinks provides access to broadband internet services across Nigeria, as you stated in your lecture, and also has the capacity to reduce the digital skill gap. But the cost is prohibitive and so inaccessible to majority of youths. How can this technology be affordable or even developed indigenously?
Clarification with regards to the lecture, and some of the questions are very relevant to the conceptual clarification of the lecture itself. Starting with Professor Ogunsheyi, with regards to the gender gap, I strongly agree with you. There is a gender gap in ICT, and it's one of the sectors that we have the widest gap globally when it comes to male and females. However, in Nigeria, some years ago, we came up with some initiatives to bridge the gap. Firstly, in the sector, when it comes to employment, we used to set aside certain percentage purposely for women. Secondly, we introduced many trainings, skills development for women. The most prominent one is ICT for women. That ICT for women is purposely to bridge the gap that exists between males and females. And that supported us significantly in reducing the gap. And also when it comes to even appointments on federal government boards under the parastatal, you will discover that you can hardly find a single board without having a female, one or two, to serve on that board. Some of the CEOs under the parastatals were women. All these initiatives were to support towards bridging the gap that existed. Secondly, the question of Dr. Akin, Fellow of Nigeria Computer Society, with regards to the MOU I signed on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria in 2022 with the Microsoft Corporation. That MOU was an agreement where Microsoft will train 5 million Nigerians on digital skills and high demand skills, fourth industrial skills. The training commenced while I was in office. We achieved a lot throughout the training. And even prior to signing the MOU, the book I authored, entitled Skills Rather Than Just Degrees, brought about the idea of signing the MOU. When I wrote the book, I consulted the president of the Microsoft, Brad Smith, to write the foreword of the book. When he wrote, he realized he sent a personal message to me that he learned a lot from the book. And he was excited that I authored it. So through my conversation with him, we agreed with the Microsoft to come up with some initiatives through their corporate social responsibilities, that is CSR. In that agreement, Microsoft established 2 African development centers in Africa. One in Lagos, in which I traveled in 2022 to commission it, and the second one in Nairobi, Kenya, where the senior staff of Microsoft from Nigeria traveled there to commission it. That African Development Center, both of them were established in Africa in order to provide the 4th industrial skills to our citizens. And I strongly believe the training is ongoing, because while in office, I visited the center at least twice to ensure that our citizens were being trained. Furthermore, in order to consolidate the training that commenced in the African Development Center in Lagos, I came up with a proposal to Microsoft that as part of your CSR, we want you to train our citizens on digital skills and certifications, not certificate. Usually certificate is through acquiring knowledge, while certification is being obtained through acquiring skills, particularly hard skills. So that Microsoft accepted the idea. We signed an MOU with them where they will train 5 million Nigerians. They commenced the training from 2022 up to 29th May 2023. And part of our handover notes, we documented that for the incoming administration. During the campaign of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he appointed me as his advisor on digital economy and community engagements. Part of my conversation with him during his campaign, I mentioned that training of Microsoft to him, that training should continue, and it's very important, and it's for free. So because of this, I'm of the opinion that the training is ongoing. Most probably, only the title or the name of the training could be changed. But the training, I strongly believe, is ongoing. Thank you. Then Senator Keita, thank you very much. I'm glad to meet you here once again. The last time we met was in the National Assembly. I am happy that you utilized your time here for self-improvement and self-development. This is very critical. Any opportunity we get outside office, we need to develop and add more value to ourselves. It's very important. I commend you for that. And I commend many senior government officials I see here, including my brother, Dr. Ali Boteri, the Provost of the Federal College of Education, Alhaji Jalo Ganga, and many more. This is really commendable, and also Honorable Kawu, Hafiz Kawu, is also commendable. Any opportunity we get, let us develop ourselves. It's very important. The fourth industrial revolution is about self-improvement. Continue to add value to your life. By adding value, you will continue to be relevant in this life. If you become irrelevant in society, you are not adding value. As long as you are adding value, there is no way you will be irrelevant. I wish you all the best. With regards to your question on NIN and SIM registration and what you maybe allege as like a miscarriage of it, as far as I'm concerned, the NIN and SIM policy has been implemented successfully. Hajia Hadiza Dagabana is here, a director of the National Identity Management Commission. And she was with me in my office with regards to NIN and SIM registration maybe over 50 times, along with her boss, the DG. Initially, what we did is to enroll the NIN and SIM, the NIN enrollment. NIMSI was established in 2007. And I took over the supervision of NIMSI in October 2020. By implication, NIMSI was in existence for 13 years. The total enrollment in the database in 13 years was 39 million. When I took over in October 2020 to May 2023, which is only 2.5 years, we catapulted the enrollment from 39 million in 13 years to over 100 million in 2.5 years. Our increase in 2.5 years is over 61 million. She is here to testify it. We achieved over 61 million citizens in 2.5 years, while we inherited only 39 million in 13 years. And she is here to testify. Government did not give us one kobo at that time. It's only thinking out of the box. Mr. President directed me. I was not comfortable. He said I was not comfortable with the way this enrollment was going on. You are directed to, initially I only went to him. I had a meeting. I was about to leave the office. He said, I am so much concerned about this national identity. It's key to our economic development, national security, and many more. But the enrollment is not encouraging. Can you advise me about its supervision. I say, sir, are you talking about personality or institution? He said personality. And I mentioned one of my colleagues, a minister. I say he's a very effective supervisor. He said, what of institution? I say, I am of the opinion that that ministry can supervise. And I mentioned another one. He said, why not you? Then I remained silent. He said, okay, you are directed to supervise NIMSI. So that is how the supervision of NIMSI was transferred to me. I counted myself out, and he said that I agree with your recommendations, but you are the one to supervise. And I remained silent. He said, do you have any objection? I said, I am loyal, sir. And that is how it started and ended. And he said to me, write a letter and submit tomorrow, and said to me, I directed you to supervise NIMSI so that I can minute it to SGF to take action. So we increased the enrollment. We achieved over 61 million in 2.5 years. And we sanitized the database. Beside the 2.3 million SIMs we blocked in 2019, in 2020 to 2021, we blocked over 15 million SIMs in Nigeria. We linked and verified all NIN to SIM. However, there are challenges that criminals deploy in order to compromise it. Number one, when they kidnap someone, they don't use their telephone. They use the telephone number of the kidnapped. So when that number is submitted, you will discover that the person that you are struggling to rescue is his telephone number. Even with that, we collaborated with security institutions where GPS was deployed, geographic positioning system, which allow security institutions to at least know the actual area where the call is coming from. So even if they don't know the identity of the kidnapper, at least they will know his location, which is also important and effective. Finally, I don't want to complain about security institutions, but I am of the opinion that some of them, not all of them, are not utilizing the database effectively. Some of them, not all of them. Because while in office, I cannot recall a single case of kidnapping that took place in Nigeria in which we were contacted and we failed to produce the information or the location. And in each and every case that we are contacted, in each and every one, security institutions were supported and they were successful in their operations, in all of them. There is not any single case of failure. So the major challenge to me is there is need for more collaboration between security institutions and other institutions that are managing the NIN and also the SIM. They need to work hand in hand, which to me is the most important thing. And if that is done, there is no doubt the success will be enhanced significantly. The next one, Colonel Saidu, asked a question about unbiased performance evaluation. As a researcher, you know very well, even during data collection, you must avoid data that is biased. And that is why there are some conditions that are set for you during data collection. You are not supposed to collect. And when it comes to evaluation, it's necessary to ensure people evaluating an institution do not have any interest there. That interest for or against, except national interest. This is part of the requirement. And that is why in 2019, 20, 21, 22, KPMG and FCDO were engaged to evaluate our performance. And these two institutions are not Nigerian institutions. So they don't have any personal interest for or against. And all the people who came for evaluation, none of them was known to us. Because of this, they were very objective and neutral. And this is something that is very important. And there is no need to waste time as a researcher. You know, avoiding data that is biased is necessary. There is no doubt, because if the data that is collected is based on bias, then definitely the result is misleading. It will not lead you to a very successful result. So this is something that is very clear. Furthermore, Barrister Hadiza Dagabana, with regards to the policy implementation, the most important advice I will give when it comes to policy implementation, that any leader must lead by example. As they say, charity begins at home. This is very important. If you are a leader, any policy that is to be implemented, you have to be in the forefront of its implementation. Don't only allow your staff to do one thing and you are doing another. You have to lead them by example. Most probably, if you recall the time we spent in office, I believe you will recall many examples I don't want to mention here. Allow me to be very humble. But you will recall that leadership by example is necessary. When the situation is calm, a leader should be at the back. When there are challenges, the leader should be in the forefront to make sure that the challenges are addressed. And this is indeed very important. Colonel Hussaini Toro, you mentioned about the blockage of 2.3 million SIMs. After that, that of September 2019. But in 2021, we blocked over 15 million SIMs that are not connected to their NIN. The policy, as I said, has been very effective. The major challenge was lack of utilization. It was not being utilized effectively. And definitely, up to this moment, that challenge could still be there. Not with all the institutions, but with some of them. And I don't want to give examples. Dr. Barbara, tax in the sector for job creation, additional tax. I'm of the opinion that even the current tax being collected in the digital economy sector is too much. Senator Kaita was the chairman of TED Fund, if I could recall. Sorry? Yeah, one of them, under education. So, TED Fund is benefiting from that tax of digital economy sector. In 2022, there was a time that the then Minister of Finance announced what they call the tax they want, excise duty. They wanted to increase or to at least collect from the digital economy sector. I immediately objected to it. At that time, they were planning to increase 5% of excise duty. And I engaged her, my elder sister Hajia Zainab Shamsuna Ahmad. I said to her, currently, 41 different types of tax are being collected in the sector. 41. There is no any sector in Nigeria that is overburdened with tax today like the digital economy sector. So if you continue to increase, it will kill the sector. And if you look at excise duty, it's supposed to be collected from the sector that government is discouraging citizens from patronizing that sector, like cigarette, like sugar consumption, and many more. Anything that government wants to discourage its consumption, then excise duty is being introduced. So if you introduce excise duty in the telecommunication sector, then by implication, you are discouraging citizens from patronizing it. And after setting a committee with long deliberation, in the end, the then president approved the exemption of telecommunication sector from excise duty 5%. So I'm of the opinion that the tax being collected, even so far, is so much in the sector. 41 categories are being collected today. Definitely, there is no justification for that. Many people, whether in the National Assembly or in the executive, when they come up with the bill, they are low-hanging fruit as far as they are concerned. They go to telecommunication sector, there is money there. 1%, 2%, 3%. That is what is happening. Sometimes there is not even engagement with the sector. When they approved that 5%, the then minister in charge of communication and digital economy was not aware and was never consulted. So by implication, that engagement, public engagement, was not done. Nobody was invited from the sector, only announcement we had. So I'm of the opinion that instead of adding more tax to the sector, government officials must think out of the box. There are many avenues where government will enhance revenue generation rather than killing a sector that has been contributing more to the economy. The facilitator earlier mentioned that ICT was contributing 14.4. It is more than that. By the time I left office, the contribution of ICT to GDP was 18.44%, almost 3 times the contribution of oil and gas to our GDP, almost 3 times. So what is important is to allow the sector to continue to develop. Look at other sectors that are not contributing and ask them or challenge them to contribute, like solid minerals. This is a very important area that is contributing globally, but in Nigeria, nothing to write home about. And if at least government comes up with an excellent policy, definitely solid minerals will contribute 200% of what oil and gas is contributing in Nigeria. I have no doubt about this. Then estate surveyor, the former president, once a president, always a president. So the president, an example of special purpose vehicle that I used while in office. I have so many examples and there is no time to speak on a larger scale because of our time constraint. One of them, or let me give 2 examples. One, I developed the national policy for artificial intelligence and robotics. After formulating the policy, I immediately obtained an approval to establish National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. The center is currently in Abuja. We developed world-class facilities. We bought the land. We built the center 100%. We equipped with the 4th generation facilities. And thousands of Nigerians have been trained in the center since 2020, up to the time we left office. So this is an example. We formulated a policy on AI, and we established a center to implement that policy. And the center, I initiated building the center as the DG NIDA. In 2018, I started. So, and we paid the contractor certain significant percentage. By 2020, the center was ready. Less than a year as a minister, the center was ready. And we reviewed the policy and we commenced the implementation immediately. Secondly, when we formulated the policy of the national policy for the promotion of indigenous content in the telecommunications sector, we established a subsidiary under NCC named as NODIT. That is National Office for the Development of Indigenous Telecommunications. That center was staffed by personnel from NCC. And they implement the policy. Because if you allow certain policies to be implemented by the entire institution, it will get saturated. But some policies require you to either set up a machinery or a vehicle or a center or at least a standing committee, which is also effective. Like the national policy on NIN and SIM registration, we set up a committee. That committee comprises senior staff from NIMSI dealing with NIN, senior staff from NCC dealing with SIM, senior staff from the private sector, MTN, Airtel, Glo, 9 Mobile, all of them were represented, including the representatives of security institutions. So that one is a standing committee where they used to meet weekly or fortnightly to discuss the progress being made and the challenges being confronted. So usually, when a policy is formulated, there is need for a special purpose vehicle or a center or a standing committee that will be mandated to handle, or at least a department should be selected to serve as the coordinating department for the implementation of that policy, so that that department will be in touch with other relevant departments to ensure it is being implemented. And as a supervisor, you must ask for a periodic report. If that is not requested, then definitely they will go and sleep. Captain, the role of entrepreneurship in job creation. I am of the opinion that I spoke on this on a larger scale by even saying that the entire digital economy has two prerequisites. Number one is building a digital innovation, and the second one, building a digital entrepreneurship. These are the two prerequisites, the two most important components of a digital economy. That is why, if you say digital economy is digital innovation plus digital entrepreneurship, both of them give you digital economy. That is why, if you are naming an institution, you cannot mention the word digital economy and also mention the name innovation. You cannot say Department of Innovation and Digital Economy. If you do that, it is an unnecessary repetition. It's just like to say Department of Finance and Money. That is the example. Is there any need of saying money? No. Because the entire digital economy, 50% of it is innovation. So you can either say Department of Digital Economy or Department of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. But you cannot use digital economy and bring one of them. There is no need for that. That is not the global standard. So I spoke on entrepreneurship, and the entire digital economy, 50% is about promoting entrepreneurship. And that is why I say digital economy promotes producing potential employers. Why? Because entrepreneurs are employers. They are employers. They are not employees. Usually they are employers. And that is what it promotes. And digital economy produces people like Jeffrey Bezos, Steve Jobs, people like Elon Musk, and many more. All of them are product of the digital economy. And today, when it comes to resources financially, they are ahead of others globally. They are, no doubt about this. Number 10, Engineer Tasiu. I am glad to see you here. Former president, once a president, always a president. So permit me to say President and Engineer Tasiu, Fellow of Nigeria Society of Engineers. About our IoT bot that I co-developed with my colleague, Dr. Agu Collins Agu, we are done with it. Only what remains, we did almost everything, including testing. All the stages required have been completed. We did the patent. We are only at the stage of mass production of it. A progress is being made in that mass production. The wisdom behind is just a hardware we produce, Internet of Things hardware. The plan of it is to teach our younger ones the skills of the fourth industrial revolution, particularly Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, among others. So we are making progress. Mr. Tony, the challenge of IT infrastructure, particularly in the developing countries, how can we navigate through thinking out of the box? I gave one example here. I was given a target of broadband penetration. Even though I used to have 10% annual increase instead of the 1.6 annual increase I inherited. But that increase was blocked by COVID-19 pandemic because we were not allowed to go outside and continue with the broadband penetration. That thinking out of the box compelled me to travel to the US and engage with Elon Musk, particularly his Starlink, and we brought them into Nigeria. So thinking out of the box is critical. And this is one of them. Secondly, if government cannot fund it, sometimes government can give tax holiday to potential investors. That if you invest in this sector, there is tax holiday for this period of time, which is very important. Certain things can be achieved through PPP, private-public partnership. That can be achieved. And many countries address the challenge of infrastructure through that process. One of them, for example, look at Rwanda, they achieved through that. Even Sudan, they achieved that. They have the cheapest internet in Africa at certain time. Why? Because they attain and obtain that infrastructure through certain agreement with investors by granting tax holidays and in certain areas through providing certain funding. In Nigeria, we have similar funding, but it's not sufficient. That is Universal Service Provision Fund. It's not sufficient because the amount that is required to ensure the availability of ICT infrastructure, if we are to leverage only on USPF, it will take us maybe 120 years before we achieve it. So that is practically not an option. So I always encourage leveraging that through using like satellite. Secondly, granting tax holiday to potential investors, particularly when it comes to investment, there are areas that are profitable. Here, Plateau State, you will discover within the town of Jos is profitable. If you go to Bauchi town, is profitable. If you go to Gombe town, is profitable. But if you go to local government that are far away, most of them are not profitable. So if you want infrastructure to be there, you must have an agreement with the investors. You either grant them tax holiday or you give them certain privileges so that they will provide infrastructure there because that area is classified and unprofitable. So there must be government intervention in order to ensure that places that are unprofitable get access to ICT infrastructure. These are some of the solutions I recommend. Honorable Hafiz Kau, with regards to the challenges of funding that you visited the ministry, all what they have this year is 3 billion naira as their annual budget. What am I recommending? How did I survive? Firstly, when I was appointed as the DG NIDDA, the two main sources of income for NIDDA were number one, through government funding. Usually, during budget, NIDDA will ask federal government to fund. And secondly, through attracting for investors, whether local or foreign investors. When they invest and their annual turnover is up to 100 million naira, they give 1% to NIDDA. The first thing I did is I officially conveyed to government that I was not interested in government funding directly. Within my first year, I even stopped government from funding NIDDA. From two sources, what I inherited, NIDDA used to generate 7 billion naira annually through two sources. I stopped government funding and I leveraged on that 1% only, which did not require government intervention. We only collaborate with the investors through FIRS to get 1%. With that 1% only, I increased NIDDA's funding from 7 billion I inherited. I left NIDDA on 20th August 2019. And by the time I left, there was over 27 billion naira in the account, which I collected from January to August. While I stopped government, I did not ask government one kobo. I said, I don't even need government support. Government should not give me money. Just support me to think out of the box and look for more alternatives. So usually, when you are appointed by government, don't rely only on government funding. In Nigeria, it's practically not possible to survive. You must think out of the box. Part of the strategies I deployed while in office after leaving NIDDA, I initiated some things. Firstly, like at the training with Microsoft, we did 5 million citizens is through CSR. When President directed me to supervise NIMSI, Hajia Hadiza is here with you. No kobo was given to us. What I did only, I invited stakeholders meeting, like MTN, Airtel, and others. I said, we don't need money from you. Don't give us one kobo. These are the facilities that NIMSI needed at that time. Please, if you have CSR, use your CSR to buy the facilities for NIMSI so that they can do the work. They did not give NIMSI one kobo, but they bought the facilities. One of them, I was in NIMSI office personally to receive the facilities from MTN, where they donated facilities of over 250 million naira to support NIN enrollment, the effort being made by government. This is one of them. And there are many things like this, where we look for at least either investors or companies to support through CSR. This is what we did, and we sustained through that process. So to me, it is not only about government. Government will provide certain, but as a government appointee, one must think out of the box, locally and internationally. Today, there are so many funding opportunities, particularly in AI and digital technology, so many funding opportunities when it comes to providing skills to citizens. So we must think out of the box and apply for this funding outside the country. They will go a long way in supporting us. Most probably, okay, then Dr. Galadima, the cost of purchasing Starlink, he said, is very expensive. I politely disagree. Politely disagree. When we engaged Starlink, the time they came into Nigeria, the price of their facilities in Nigeria, through my direct engagement with them, was the cheapest globally. In the whole world, the price of their hardware is the cheapest. Nigeria is the cheapest. Now they also reduce it again. The entire price today is 440,000 naira. And if you get it, if you look at the total number, the entire hall here can subscribe to it. And if you subscribe to it, you don't need to use your data. And we can use it 24/7 with uninterrupted internet at 440,000 naira. And this is the hardware. And if you convert this to dollar, how much? Today, the exchange rate, as I read online, I don't know practically, while coming here is around 1,400 per dollar. So if you convert it, you will discover it's how much in dollar? It's around 300. It's around $300. So $300 for the entire hardware that can serve an institution, we cannot say it's expensive. Particularly, I know countries where they purchase it over $1,000 today. It is only because of our poverty. That is the challenge. You know, poverty is one thing. Saying it's expensive is another thing. I agree with you, not each and everyone can afford it. But even the smartphone with you, not each and every citizen can afford it. If we go to our villages, that smartphone is not even in their dictionary. I once spoke with an elderly woman. She called me, I didn't know her. And I said, okay, I will look into it. If there is any message, one of my aides will reach out to you. They call her over 100 times, not reachable. Then after a month, she called again with a simple request, very simple. And I was able to respond. I said, but I asked them to call you. She said, I didn't have a phone, I only have SIM card. When I want to call you, I go to my sister's house and I will borrow her phone, insert my SIM and make a call. After that, I will remove it and go back to my house. Even a phone of 20,000, maybe second-hand, she cannot afford it. So the issue is about our poverty, not being expensive. There are two different things. If you say some of us cannot afford it, I can say, most of us do not need it. Because if you look at the capacity, it will take care of your entire family at home. In an institution, it can take care of an institution that is not very big. A moderate institution, one facility is sufficient. So it's not for only one person. It is to serve an institution that requires many subscribers. So I think the issue has to do with poverty rather than being expensive. And I hope I have answered all your questions. Thank you very much.
May we appreciate our distinguished resource person with a round of applause. Today is Friday, so we are constrained by time. Luckily for us, the second guest speaker has also made our way to the hall. So I'll just take two interventions from the faculty. Commodore Baje and nothing? Okay. Professor Dabin, the two generals from the army. I'll take Jimo.
Concern for me really, and it is good that you've been in public office and the growth of the digital economy you're very much familiar with. I'm concerned about having a single database for Nigerians. I don't know what is the problem, what's the challenge? Is it policy, is it funding, is it political will? In other climes, whatever, I mean, now we have 3, 4, 5 agencies all doing virtually the same thing. I'm concerned about that. Secondly, sir, the issue of multiplicity of taxes for operators, yes, is one thing. But I'm also concerned that in other clients, if you buy data, you will use the data, I mean, it's not necessarily timed in such a way that you buy M10 data and they tell you that, okay, this is monthly. Once the period is exhausted, then of course you lose the data unless you resubscribe again, and sometimes you just lose the data. I'm aware that in other countries, you're able to use data for as long as, you know, your value subsists and you can get it. But those are my concerns that I thought, let's not miss this opportunity to hear your comments about, particularly this multiplicity of databases in Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
General Jimo.
I'm Brigadier General L.A. Jimo, MNI, the member of the directing staff. Let me join my other colleagues to thank Professor Pantami for that insightful and well-delivered extemporal lecture. Thank you very much. Sir, there is this challenge of vandalization of communication infrastructure, which we understand to mitigate this, the Critical National Infrastructure Protection Bill was forwarded to the National Assembly sometimes in 2015. But up to now, the bill is still pending, whether it was rejected or whether it is still work in progress. Sir, can you enlighten us your efforts in that regard during your tenure as minister?
For our citizens, it is an excellent observation. And I once wrote a letter to the then president requesting him to approve setting up a presidential committee on data harmonization, which I happen to chair one of the committees with regards to national identity. Under that committee, as part of members, JAM there, FRIS was there, CBN was also there, immigration was also there. Based on the Nigerian law, the custodian of our primary citizen data is NIMSI. NIMSI is the apex institution when it comes to our primary data. There is no doubt about this. However, a challenge happens in the process. NIMSI has its own template of capturing data when it comes to fingerprints, the picture, and many more. And we discovered that other institutions collecting data in the process of harmonization, they did not respect the template set up by NIMSI. So in the process of harmonization, you'll discover that there is no way you can match the data together. The only way out is to ensure each and every citizen get a role into NIMSI database. And that is why what compelled us to increase the enrollment, so that when NIMSI database is complete, all other databases will not be a problem. They will only rely on NIMSI for their own source of data, and that one will be the central database, as in NIMSI Act 2007, Section 25 is very clear on that. So the major challenge, other institutions collecting data are not respecting the standard template set up by NIMSI. If they collect a biometric and NIMSI tries to collect that biometric, for example, from immigration, you will discover the system will not accept the data. Why? Because that template set up by NIMSI, to me, is the best in Nigeria. That has not been respected. So there is no way you can integrate all of them together. So the only solution we realized at that time was to ensure all our citizens are in NIMSI database. After doing that, all other institutions will only get connected to NIMSI to collect the data without requesting you to go there and present your biodata anymore or your biometric anymore. So because of this, we must ensure that we centralize NIMSI database, we accept it at the primary database, and if we comply, I believe all other things will be resolved easily. So this is with regards to the first question. Then the second, what is the second question? The critical national infrastructure. Our effort with regards to the critical national infrastructure while in office, firstly, we obtained the approval of Mr. President, where he directed all security institutions to ensure that the critical national infrastructure was protected. And the President approved it and directed security institutions through his own executive order to protect it. And at that time, the investors who are in charge of that critical national infrastructure, including the investment of government, were notified in writing that they are to reach out to security institutions to get the substantial number of personnel they need to ensure their infrastructure is protected. Furthermore, a bill was proposed at the National Assembly with the plan of enacting a full legislation or a principal legislation. And I believe the bill is still there, and I hope a progress is being made now. However, before leaving office, there is a presidential approval with the strength of an executive order directing security institutions to do that. And I believe that at that time, NIMSI applied for security to protect their database, and government approved, and many security personnel were deployed to NIMSI. And they have been protecting that database and other infrastructure. The last question with regards to vandalization of telecommunication facilities. This is highly worrisome. While in office, through that executive order and the presidential approval, we significantly reduced the vandalization, because most of the vandalization used to take place was during road construction and enacting buildings. Road construction workers do not respect our cables and fiber optics during their road construction. So the then Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, was engaged, and we set up a committee involving NCC, Ministry of Works, where they always share with NCC where road construction is about to commence. And NCC will notify mobile network operators to go and put their house in order with regards to their fiber optics, among others. That has significantly reduced the vandalization of that infrastructure during road construction. However, I believe there are still challenges, but significant progress was made previously. Once again, I hope I have answered the questions again. Thank you very much.
Before I call on the DG to sum up. Okay. Hold on first, sir. The individuals that made it possible for the Honorable Minister to come here this day physically, Mr. Mohammed Ladan. Is here? Okay. Abubakar Abbas. I've been talking with Samaila. I didn't see him until this morning. Shamun Damji, make sure that we get the pictures. So I'll call on the acting DOR to sum up. Okay, to make one or two comments before the DG sums up.
The Director General, guest speaker, drove all the way from Abuja this morning. He left Abuja by 6 a.m. and by a few minutes after 10, they were in NIPS. While we're trying to get settled and the Directing Staff Special Duties asked of his presentation, the paper and the PowerPoint, he said he has not prepared lecture. I want to say that our distinguished lecturer delivered well and with passion. So at a point it was either, was it a lecture, was it a sermon, but the passion was there concerning what he was presenting. And I'd like to say that for us, when we are writing our final report, we remember that, look, there is the need for reorientation of our educational curricula in Nigeria to be more skill-focused than knowledge. And of course, another very important point he raised, which will help in our recommendation, is about the role of the civil service or the bureaucrats in terms of policy implementation. And he said there is need for reorientation of the civil service if policy implementation must succeed. I want to sincerely appreciate you for a well-delivered lecture. Thank you.
The DG will now sum up.
We had an opportunity today of listening to a practitioner. So it wasn't about theory. Prof, please permit me to talk to my participants. Now, because you refused to give us a lecture, you have given me these lectures, and this is what I want from you, and you have to submit it by 17:00 hours on Monday. I want you to give me the lecture he delivered. I will send it to him and say, oh God, this is the lecture you refused to write down. Everything he has said today, I want you to write it as a lecture, and we are going to present it to you.
Oh, thank you.
As well.
Please appreciate the DG now.
So that is an assignment for you. If you need me to help you, I have a few things I listed. I can offer you those things. Now, let me also say one thing for participants. I am developing a device, and I'm sure my friend is here, the Prof, to enable me to know those who sleep during lectures. For those of you that take a nap while the lecturer is on, we will soon get up a device that will enable us to know. It's part of developing the digital economy. Do you know what he said? He said there is no digital economy without innovation. Please take that to heart. There is no digital economy without innovation. That's number one. Then there is no digital economy without entrepreneurship. That sums up everything. Those two will lead you to getting our youth to find or create jobs. Those who innovate are different from those who sometimes run the show. Do not forget what I told us about Hewlett and Packard. Hewlett was the what? The technician, and Packard was what? Well, I've said this before. Go and find out the relationship between Hewlett and Packard. I have a whole lot to say to you about this, but I'm not going to waste too much time because I know we have Muslim brothers and sisters have to go to the mosque. Prof, sir, let me use this opportunity to announce to those of you who are here, the bandwidth you currently use was donated to us by this very gentleman. If you permit me, can you rise up and just give him the deserving? For me, I must say that I've engaged with so many people who made promises. And let me announce that the only promise that has been effectively implemented has been the one he made, that he will give us a worthy internet connection, and he has done so. If we have some issues with our internet, it is because of the contractor who has certain problems, not because he not only awarded the contract, he also fully paid, so that there was no reason for anybody to fail on that project. Prof, I thank you so very much. I appreciate what you have shared with us. It is much more than we expected. And you have done so much. It's like something I wanted to say, Prof, you are talking too much, because these people, you are telling them what to write. I mean, if you tap from what he has done, I don't think there is going to be any problem writing your Pali report. Prof, may I ask you, while this might be extemporaneous, can I ask that you join our technical team as an advisor on the final Pali report that we will write? You may, I know you are. Thank you, sir. Thank you. He has accepted. So, you see, we are very close to writing the Pali report, and we are making it different this year. Our Pali report, we must do something every month, getting close to solving the problem Mr. President has given us. And this is very exciting. I listened to the quality of questions participants are asking. Now you are making me doubt myself. When you guys first came, I was happy. You appeared slow, you appear unresponsive, but now I think you have to clap for yourself. You are right? Yes, I'm getting excited that almost everybody wants to talk. Everybody has something to say, except for those I catch sometimes sleeping, because I don't know how somebody could sleep while listening to that very fantastic lecture. But participants, so far, I'm getting happy a little bit.
Clap for yourselves now.
Directing staff, members, I thank you so much. You have a lot of work on these participants, so much so that I believe, yeah, you have to participants. But be that as it may, by this score we can make to know what is left of the 100 marks we gave everybody. Please, you will submit to me how many marks are left out of the 100. So anybody who is below 70 may be asked to go or stay on for his certificate of participation and the award of the yellow badge. I will step up to present the plaque. So, my brother, thank you.
Our esteemed distinguished guest speaker, Professor Isa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, the Director General of the National Institute, Director of Studies, the Acting Director of Research, faculty members, my distinguished colleagues of the Senior Executive Course 46 of 2024. Good afternoon. I am Kazim Adeyemi Olatiwo, Director, sponsored by the Central Bank of Nigeria. I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to you, sir, Professor, for sharing your insightful research, your experience, and expertise with us today and in person. Your presentation was both informative and engaging. It captivated us, your audience, and enriched our understanding of the topic, performance evaluation in digital economy, youth empowerment, and sustainable job creation. Sir, your dedication to your field and the meticulous effort you put into your work are truly commendable, and we are honored to have you and have the opportunity of benefiting from your knowledge. Your achievements, sir, and your giant strides are all greatly appreciated. On behalf of the Director General, Professor Hayo Motayo, the management and staff of the National Institute, and of course, my distinguished colleagues of SEC 46 2024, I'd like to thank you most sincerely for your outstanding presentation. We look forward to future collaboration and continued exchange of ideas. I also like to thank you for accepting to serve as technical advisor as we write and embark on our journey to writing the presidential pardon. Thank you very much, sir, and God bless you. I'll have a safety back to your destination.